Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Life Pre-Race. We have a full house here. Starting off with debut of Julia. We have Adam, our supercar expert. Excited. Welcome back to Jessica. Very excited to have you back, and congratulations on your marriage as well. Joshua and Kobe from the podium finish. We encourage everyone to participate in the chat room and also subscribe to our Patreon. Keep us on the air. Keep us going throughout 2022 and buy us a coffee, especially you want to buy a coffee for Julia or Jessica for being on the Grid Network. More than welcome to. Link in the video description. Before we get started, we want to recap on some of the big news from the motorsports world that comes out of Formula One, where Haas released a statement this morning that it has terminated its deal with Uralkali and Nakita Mazepin in response to heroin attacks in the Ukraine. Now, Mazepin did release a statement that he was willing to comply with the FIA's recommendations for Russian athletes to compete under a neutral flag. However, his time in F1 is over. No announcement on who is going to replace him, and we will have a full report Wednesday on Grid Tonight with Adam and Kobe. So we encourage everyone to subscribe to the Grid Network as we follow this development. And we got to start off with I think a lot of people are very excited about MotoGP. The 2022 season is here and it's ready to kick off. Qualifying wrapped up, and eventful qualifying. Saw several riders contending for the pole, and at the end, two sophomores on the front row and a multi-time champion. Jorge Martin on the pole with a 1 minute 53.011, and behind him, Ian Bastianini in the front row. So of course, next to them, Marc Marquez, a 93 Honda. Marquez claims he had to make some adjustments during the weekend with that new bike. And of course, with that, the new bike, more grip in the back end. Starting with you, Julia. Will Jorge and Enya have a handful in the race with Marc Marquez? And is Marc Marquez really 100% back?
Well, I don't think it's gonna be easy for Jorge and Enea. I think maybe it's hard to say if Marc Marquez is really back because he's been still riding behind Joan Mir and behind Pecco Bagnaia all the time. Making a vision that he's not fully back, that he still needs this help from them. But in the end, I think he's not gonna make it easy for Jorge and Enea. He is competitive. He's been saying that the bike is totally different. He needs to get used to it, but still, he is very fast. Even in qualifying, I mean, even last year when his arm wasn't that good, he was good in the race, better than in qualifying. So I think he may be one of the favorites to win tomorrow, but we can't ignore Jorge, who's really fast, who loves the track in Qatar. He's very fast there, and of course he's on the Ducati, just like Enea. So I think it is possible that Marc is back, almost fully back, but he's trying not to show it. And I think, honestly, this trio, so Jorge, Enea, and Marc, are the favorites for the win.
We have Bastianini and Martin are going to have a nice battle tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to seeing the start to find out how both drivers are going to handle themselves in the fifth corner in Los Angeles. How they are going to use the experience they have, and now both Ducatis will be react the piece. They will be having almost an hour on the track. Jorge Martin has 2 pole positions in a row in Los Angeles. This is very important for him. And about Marc Marquez, for his part, Marquez, we know what he's made of, but the physical level ends of beginner reflected with the pressure of the race. Of being fast overtaking in not beginning overtaken. I don't think so. I don't think he's 100% because it was a long and important injury, but he always will be continuing the favorite in MotoGP.
Completely agree with my colleagues as well. In fact, it's always a question, is Marc Marquez really back? All throughout this weekend across the practice sessions, and we saw it mainly in qualifying, he was tailing other riders as well, sort of saying that I'll turn you around, but you'll have to turn me around. We sort of saw that earlier on in last year, I think at Barcelona, where Jack Miller went like that, says, give me the money and I'll turn you around. Marc Marquez, of course, he missed the last 2 races of the year. He hasn't ridden since Mazzano, since Quartararo took the championship. But it's important to say that he has won 2 races back to back. His last 2 races he competed at, he won before he had the injury. Then his double vision problem, of course, was affecting him. He says it's all okay now. And he's just saying as well, I'm not really in for it. If I crash again, the next one could be a career ender. I'm just going that I've reset. I understand more now, not of what my own limitation is and my own frustration, but that of the frustration of not listening to the doctors who are trying to give me advice. So we've seen Marc Marquez come back now from these injuries. He's got a much more deeper respect for the people telling him, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's physically impossible. But we've seen Marc Marquez beat those odds several times. He's always doing the impossible. Front row of the grid tomorrow as well. We've got Jorge Martin on pole again. I think for the second time at this track. He's raced here 3 times in 2 years. This is his second visit in a year because, of course, last year we had Qatar and Doha back-to-back Grand Prix. Ducatis are always strong here. I was very surprised he's on pole position as well. Thought he didn't have it in him. I was convinced it was going to be one of the Suzukis as well. As Dimas says, predictions who will win at the Moto2 and MotoGP Qatar. Moto2, I think it's going to be Sam Lowes. And for MotoGP, you'll have to wait until later on when Adam has his segment. But yeah, for Marc Marquez as well, he's going to have 2 very fast young riders ahead of him as well. Enea Bastianini got the perfect turn and the perfect lap. Jorge Martin as well. He was dragged around the lap as well. But that Ducati had so much more slipstream. In the end, in the tow game, it was always going to be one of the Ducatis on there. Surprised considering that they are running a hybrid engine. All the Ducatis, the factories and the Pramacs, they're running a hybrid of the 2021 engines with a few updates of the 2022. That's because the new engine, after the engine freeze, just had too much power and they couldn't control it. Now, that is something to be interested in for the year ahead.
Going to be a very interesting year ahead for MotoGP. Very excited to see MotoGP back again, and it's Marc Marquez at 100% strength. Now, one team that doesn't appear to be 100% at strength is Yamaha. Behind the other teams, with their top speed, they're lacking in that area, and they were in Q1. We saw Fabio Quartararo. He did get into Q2, but he was second behind Brad Binder in the KTM. And Quartararo, he is not starting the top 10. As you can see, he is starting 11th place, and Franco Morbidelli, his teammate, is in 12th place right behind him. So, Julia, starting with you, would Fabio Quartararo be a contender for the win, or is the Yamaha a bit too far behind when it comes to speed? And also, Cheryl, who do you think is going to win the Moto2 race?
So it's definitely tough to say because we know that the situation with Yamaha is quite tough, if I can call it like that. We know that they are kind of afraid of putting more power into the engine on the straight because they are afraid they're gonna lose their advantage in the corners because Yamaha is super fast in the corners but not that fast on the straights. Fabio, the thing with Fabio is that he doesn't like being in Q1. He doesn't like starting from the the lower rows because he won his title because of his qualifying. And this year we've seen that I think Yamaha is even in the worse situation than the last year. At the end of the last year, especially, it's hard to say. I'm not gonna discount. I'm not gonna count him out because he is a champion. He is the rider that makes a difference at Yamaha. He made a difference last year when everyone's been struggling on Yamaha, and he did his thing. He won a championship, but it may be tough for him on this track when it's a super fast track with a nice long straight for the Ducatis. So it may be hard for him to win a race, but I'm not gonna outcount him from being really close to the podium or even being on the podium because as we know in MotoGP everything is possible. And when about Moto2, I need to say that I didn't watch any qualifying and free practice because of my work here in charity for Ukraine. So I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna pick a winner.
Now, for this race, Yamaha looks a bit of usual. Also, Fabio was able to enter to Q2. It was until job to get to the top. If they are looking for a way to get better, he will position himself much higher. I don't think it's something to down Yamaha for the rest of the season. All the races are important, but the first one shows you what you can change for the rest of the season. And another thing too important in this season, and not less bad, is the new era post Valentino Rossi. But Fabio has a difficult job. He had a difficult job this Saturday in the pole position, and he has the pressure to be the champion.
The pressure is there, being the defending champion with Yamaha and without Valentino Rossi there. First time in a long time we don't have Valentino Rossi in the field. It's going to be really exciting to see what's going to happen. Of course, the top 10, as we mentioned, it looks very diverse, but when you look at it, 4 Ducatis, 2 Hondas, 2 Suzukis, and 1 Aprilia and KTM each. We saw Pecco Bagnaia earlier in the weekend go down. He said he's not feeling the front end on the Ducatis. He'll be starting ninth behind the other Ducatis of Miller, who is then behind the 2 non-factory teams that we see running the Ducati. So, Jessica, starting with you, will the factory teams be able to make up the ground and join the non-factory teams up towards the front?
Yes, I think so. Everyone is going to aim for tomorrow. Honda is close, and the fastest thing is the ones that will have more work this weekend will be for Yamaha. We have Pecco, Miller, Marc Marquez, and both Aprilia. Bikes are going to all out this Sunday. So I think in Honda is very close that Bastianini and Martin.
Yeah, it's the 2 Ducatis that are worrying me as well. The factory Ducati seem to be completely at sea this weekend as well. They have been losing so much time in the combined practice times as well, which was the running order for the 2 qualifying sessions. We saw Bagnaia 8th, Miller 9th, whereas the Pramacs were right up there as well with Jorge Martin in P4. Martin got pole position, of course, with running earlier on. They've been struggling a lot. The reason they've got this split engine deal, which is half of 2021, half of 2022, is because Bagnaia and Miller both said in preseason testing, in the first one, I think at Jerez, whoa, it's too powerful. You turn it, and all of a sudden the front comes up. You can't get it back down. The electronics are doing nothing to help counteract that force. So they came up with this hybrid. They've homologated it for this season, but they haven't had much testing on it, because the last one we had in Indonesia, a lot of dust on the track as well, a lot of dirt. They haven't had much testing. Here this weekend again, the track's been dirty. They've done a lot of laps, but they haven't got the proper mileage on it yet. They need to get a proper race distance under it. That'll be tomorrow. So I think this weekend for Ducati already is damage limitation, but it's only affecting the factory Ducatis. The Pramacs have got hold of it completely, and we're seeing that this weekend as well. They can slipstream. They can get the power down more easier. So I think for Ducati's point of view, the customer team is ahead of the factory team, definitely here today.
A lot going on. Very exciting. 22 laps, the Qatar Grand Prix, and we talked about Ducatis, we talked about Hondas, and the Yamahas. KTM, Brad Binder, got in Q2. He's starting 7th. His teammate Miguel Oliveira, way back in 14th. And of course, the Suzukis. We haven't talked much about them. Both are dirt riders in the top 10. When it comes to the brands of KTM and Suzuki, Joshua, who do you see has the advantage?
Definitely the Suzukis. I mean, they have been unusually fast this weekend as well. Rins topped the combined times, free practice 2. He did it with no toe, I've written as well, a 153.432. And he did that completely on his own down the long kilometre back straightaway. It was unbelievable. Now, if anybody who's, as you all know as well, is working on MotoGP and watching it as well, and the viewers at home as well, to have that kind of pace without a toe on the start-finish straight at Qatar is unthinkable. So the Suzuki is fast. It has the race pace. Let's hope they can have a better go at the race strategy tomorrow, because in qualifying, they're kind of all over the place. But I'm really hoping that tomorrow we're going to see something special from Suzuki. And of course, for Alex Rins as well, he's already been feeling the pressure pre-season. This is the last year of his Suzuki contract. If he wants to get it renewed, he's going to have to do something spectacular this year. Considering his teammate was a world champion, he's going to have to at least either A, win the championship, or B, secure them the Constructors' Championship. And at the moment, it's more likely to be number 2 than number 1 after today's quality.
Yeah, Suzuki appears to have a great pace on Losail. Their pace on the straight was just incredible, as we've seen the practice. How a Suzuki could easily overtake on a straight. I think it may be their advantage, but I also think, personally, after looking mostly at the FP4, so the practice that said the most about so far about probable race pace, and here definitely KTM is doing better, because what we've seen is that Suzuki did really good on a clean track for maybe not in qualifying, because there have been many race riders on the track and much dirt at the end of the session. But for one lap at the clean track, they've been great. But we also seen KTM doing pretty nicely, because Brad Binder appears to be quite in a pace on Losail, showing he maybe he's not going for a podium, but appears to be the one to be, kind of rushing after Marquez, Bastianini, and Martin. So honestly, I think that it's hard to say, but we will see. We will mostly see after the warm-up tomorrow, but it is possible that in the race, it may be KTM who will do better for a long run. But yeah, we can't uncount Suzuki and both of the riders starting in top 10, because they also have a great pace.
Great pace. It's going to be really interesting to see how it all shapes up for MotoGP in the race. And of course, we encourage everyone to comment with your questions and stick around. We'll be doing pick a win for MotoGP as well as the other races. But one race, we already got a winner, and I know a couple people that scored and pick a winner already. Supercars, their first race, they are back as well.
Yeah, one Supercars race down and another race to go at Sydney Motorsport Park. It started with Anton De Pasquale on the pole, but he came in second place to the defending champion, Shane Van Gisbergen, whose team used strategy to get ahead and claim the first race of 2022. Adam, how impressed were you with the strategy call, and is it really a surprise considering it's SVG?
No. Shane Van the champ is still the champ after what we saw in race 1 at Sydney Motorsports Park. Shane Van Gisbergen's strategy was perfection. He started off on the soft tires, and then he went. He started off on the soft tires. Then he went over to the super soft tires. Then his last pit stop, he went back to soft tires. And he came out of nowhere. You got to give a call to Jamie Whincup, his first, the 7-time champion, taking over for a legend like Roland Dane. What did he do? He already has a race win as team director for Red Bull Ampol Racing, and I'll give a call to SVG's teammate Brock Feeney. First time competing in the top 10 shootout, and I believe he came home with the top 10 finish, so that's pretty good in your debut, driving the number 88 car, which we've seen Jamie Whincup drive for a long, long time. But Shane Van Gisbergen, I think he's going to be the one to beat, for the Repco Supercars Championship. But Anton De Pasquale last night, or early this morning here in the United States, he was really good too. But it's going to be hard, very hard, to knock SVG off his pedestal. Race two, I believe, is going to be under wet conditions. So SVG does really good in the wet. If you're watching for your hint for pick a winner, I would go with SVG. So stick around to see if I said my pick a winner yet, or I say it at the end of the show.
This is going to be really hard to beat Shane Van Gisbergen this weekend in Sydney in race 2. And as you said, Adam, during the entire season, I think Shane is by far the overwhelming favorite to repeat as champion and get his third Supercars championship. And that was a really great strategy call last night to dominate like he always does. At the beginning of the race, I was wondering, does the field have something on Shane Van Gisbergen? Because Andre Heimgartner got out there. Will Brown was running really strong. And unfortunate for Andre Heimgartner, he was running extremely well throughout the race, and then towards the end, I'm still not really sure what happened to him, but he faded all the way back. Really unfortunate for him. Will Brown faded at the end. You see down there to seventh place. But overall, Shane Van Gisbergen is definitely the guy to beat, and based on what we saw in race 1, looks like his championship competitor all season is going to be Anton De Pasquale. Was really impressed with his form as well, and we do have another opportunity in race 2 to see if anyone can catch up to SVG. We saw some big movers in race 1, including Chaz Mostert up 5 positions, and if it rains in race 2, we all know Mozzie's going to be up there because he's an assassin in the wet, one of the best drivers in wet conditions or mixed conditions in the Repco Supercars Championship. Nick Percat up 8 spots, and Cam Waters up to 11th position. And like I said on our Supercars season preview show on Wednesday night with Adam and I, what Cam Waters are we going to get? Are we going to get hot water or cold water? Because he's quite inconsistent. So, Adam, here's my question. Would pole or even a front row start allow them to battle with SVG?
I think even a top 5, start will get you up there competing with SVG. Chaz Mostert, you mentioned him. He, like you mentioned, Kobe, he's really good in the wet as well. So that's another hint where I could go for my pick a winner. So I'll stay around till the end of the show. Nick Percat, was really impressed with him. Cam Waters, I was also impressed with him. But it's hard, after what we saw with SVG last year, it's going to be hard for anyone to knock him off the top step of the podium. But I think this year's Repco Supercar Championship is going to be very, very competitive. So I think Chaz Mostert is going to be a solid championship pick, at least to finish in the top 3.
Yeah, it's going to be very competitive this season all across the board. I don't know if it's going to be competitive for the top spot for the championship because Van Gisbergen is on a roll right now, and I don't even think winning the pole or even starting in the front row will allow these drivers to battle him. I think that they need to do that, qualify up front, and any SVG to be off his game, which is extremely rare. And I believe we were talking before we came on the air, Adam, about SVG and talking about wet weather. And the last time the Supercars Series racing wet was here at Sydney Motorsport Park last year, and he slid off in the first corner of the race and went off course. And we'd need to see something like that, I believe, for somebody to challenge Shane Van Gisbergen this weekend. And the weather wasn't a big factor in race 1. Everyone expected rain to happen, but it didn't arrive in time to affect the racing. But maybe we'll see some rain in race 2. And last year at Sydney, we got a wet race under the lights, and a wet race would certainly shake up the running order. And maybe we could see a surprise winner to really equalize the competition and allow the field to take the fight to Shane Van Gisbergen Adam, do you anticipate a race similar to race one, or could we see an entirely different outcome?
The rain that everybody thought was coming during the race happened after the race, and I'll let you guys know, the people that are watching, the weather conditions for Sunday at Eastern Creek, where Sydney Motorsport Park's located, all day rain. So Shane Van Gisbergen, you mentioned Kobe, really good in the wet. Chaz Mostert, really good in the wet. So Anton De Pasquale, I think he'll be up there, for the win. But if we're calling for really wet conditions like they are, either your best bet is either to pick Shane Van Gisbergen for the Red Bull Amco Racing Team or Chaz Mostert for Walkinshaw and Andretti United. It's a toss-up between those two who could take race 2 at Sydney Motorsports Park.
Van Gisbergen, Mostert, and even put Anton De Pasquale in there. Those are probably going to be the top 3 favorites to win the race. I think if conditions stay dry tonight, then it's probably going to look like race 1. See Shane Van Gisbergen get away, and maybe De Pasquale or Mostert can challenge. But if we see wet weather conditions, yes, SVG probably still going to be the favorite, but I'd have to tip my hat a little more in Chaz Mostert, as we mentioned, one of the best racers in wet conditions in the Repco Supercars Championship, and I'm sure for all the fans watching around the world, I'm betting they'd like to see some rain come to the track, because typically we see wet weather races, it really spices up the action, and it's going to be interesting to see what Mother Nature decides to throw at us down under.
While we're talking about wet weather down under, when it comes to the Cup Series, during the desert, wet weather is not going to be an issue for the NASCAR Cup Series, which will start qualifying shortly at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, side of the Pennzoil 400 and the side of Kyle Larson's first win out of 10 in 2021. And of course, for all our regular viewers that recall, that sort of started a trend in pick a winner, which will be following NASCAR shortly. But with Kyle Larson getting that win last weekend, it seems like he has to be an early favorite for this weekend. Everyone else still has a chance, very much wide open to potential list of contenders to win this race, especially with the new car. However, we got to start out with Toyota. Their drivers were not happy at Auto Club Speedway last race weekend. Kyle Busch, one of the favorites for last weekend, nowhere in the picture to win. Spins, bad luck, overheating. Overheating was a problem for Bubba Wallace. Only one Toyota in the top 10 at all last week. Adam, Ford and Chevrolet, they both have a win already. Can we see a Toyota in victory lane this Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's possible. It's a home track to the Busch brothers, Kyle and Kurt. So, they want to do really good in front of their hometown fans. So far, we really haven't seen Kyle Busch do really good in 2022, but it's his last year of having M&M's as a sponsor in his car, so he wants to have a good year for them before finding a new sponsor next year. So Denny Hamlin, he'll be a contender. Bubba Wallace, I think he'll be a contender as well, and you could see a Toyota win on Sunday, but it's hard to go against the Fords and Chevrolets, what we've seen so far from the first 2 races.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible we could see a Toyota win. And before all the problems they had at Auto Club Speedway, I was actually going to pick a Toyota driver to win this weekend, but now I'm not so sure, because as Joe mentioned, all the issues we saw at Fontana last weekend, Toyota had a lot of issues with overheating, and it really seems like they're behind the Fords and the Chevrolets. Unless Toyota's figured out the overheating problems, I think it could be a long day in Sin City for them. But if anybody can do it for Toyota, I think this is a perfect time for Kyle Busch to shine. and Kyle Busch. We saw the Busch Clash battling Joey Logano for the win there. Daytona 500 gave some really good pushes to Bubba Wallace. Then all the issues he had at Fontana last week, and it still finished on the lead lap inside the top 15. Kyle Busch was able to salvage a really bad, terrible, and miserable day. So if I had to pick one Toyota driver to win in Las Vegas at his home track, it would have to be Rowdy.
Rowdy has to be a favorite at Vegas. He knows how to get it done. And of course, one of the big things, the Toyotas, they got the smallest number of cars there. Only Gibbs, 2311, while the Chevrolet, the Fords, they have a lot more. As you can see, red indicate Toyota, blue numbers indicate Fords, and the yellow numbers indicate Chevrolets. Last weekend, the race had 9 different leaders. This includes multiple drivers that didn't win a race in 2021, and some still looking for their first career wins. We also had 9 different teams in the top 10 last weekend. Compared to past weekends, especially 2021, we talk about the big three: Gibbs, Hendricks, and Penske dominating the top 10 positions week in and week out. We now enter the first mile and a half oval of 2022. Last weekend was a 2 mile oval. Kobe, do you anticipate more of the same? Or could we see those big three again take out most of the top 10 positions at the end?
I think we're more likely to see the big three teams take up most of the positions on the top 10, but since all the teams are still learning the new car, I think we might see a little bit of what we saw last week at Fontana with comers and goers. I know a lot of people were really shocked to see Eric Jones and Richard Petty's number 43 run up there. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for JTG Darty Racing running up front as well, and then we saw Daniel Hemrick for Colleague Racing run well too. So I think it's going to be a very interesting, intriguing race that we're going to see on Sunday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as we watch these teams develop and learn the new cars. I know one of the biggest issues that they're going to have to try to figure out are those flat tires. I know NASCAR's working very hard to figure that situation out, because I know with the other car, you have a flat tire, you could drive it back to the pits. And even with this new car, sometimes if you're lucky enough, you get a flat tire, you can drive it back to the pits. And other times, you get the flat tire and you're completely stuck. So, and it wasn't fair to all the drivers last weekend who lost multiple laps because they could not get away from the scene. And that's something that cannot happen as we move forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Daytona it was loose wheels, and then at Fontana it was punctures causing them as well. They just got to get a handle on it. I completely agree with Kobe as well. I think we're going to see a bit more like what we saw at Daytona and Fontana as well, with sort of everybody mixing in at different times throughout the field as well. I think it's a bit refreshing to see it as well. It's certainly more excitement than close racing, but already there's still speedways, super speedways, but I think we saw a difference, didn't we? Daytona, very close pack racing, a lot of overtakes of drafting around the outside. Fontana, again, much more spread out, much more in terms of green flag pit stops. And then, of course, what was it, 9 or 10? No, 11 cautions I think we had, didn't we, for Fontana? It's like, will this race ever end? It went on for too long in the end as well. But I think we're going to see pretty much what we've seen throughout the first two races, and that is going to be unusual names right at the front. I think, Kobe, I even saw your tweet saying that the King's number's back at the top, and I thought, yeah, that was nice to see.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue seeing some new names up front. One name in particular I'm anticipating, Tyler Reddick. I think he's showing that he and that team are really something for this year. They're not just capitalizing on the new car, but they've been strong so far every year. Just bad luck with the crash at Daytona, Fontana, the blown tire. If they get rid of those gremlins, I anticipate we're going to see that number 8 in victory at some point this year. Now, of course, lastly, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Those were reconfigured back in 2006 for the 2007 race. And ever since then, we did see for the longest time, it bit people if you got loose and you spun into the wall. And then all sorts of stuff when it comes to testing the drivers. It became pretty much a physical track. Then, of course, the 550 horsepower changed the name of the game when it came to NASCAR racing in the mile and a half ovals. Last weekend, the drivers were saying Fontana Auto Club was a very demanding race. They were on the edge of control, just the slightest out of shape moment, and you were going to be spinning around. And this track, no talk about repavement anytime soon. It's already been over 10 years since the last repave. Joshua, starting you like last weekend, can we anticipate a plethora of cautions and a demanding test for the drivers compared to years past at Las Vegas Motor Speedway?
I think it's exactly what we're going to see as well. It hasn't been resurfaced in 10 years, as you say, as well. That's going to be a lot of bumps as well, a lot of errors to be made as well. Is that going to factor into what we see with the punctures as well? We know how sensitive these tyres are as well. Can they stand up to the pressure of an aged surface as well? But I'm really, really hoping we see a good race as well. I'm not a big fan of Las Vegas, of course, after what happened in IndyCar in 2011. I didn't really like how fast it is, how flat out it is at some points as well. And as you say, Joe, as well, it bites the drivers. And if it bites hard, very, very hard at this track as well. So I'm hoping it's a safe race. I think we're going to see a load of cautions, and I think we're going to see a lot of punctures as well, to allude to what Kobe said about the tyres. But for once, I can't wait to say it. I can't believe I get to say this, but as well, but I think we're going to see a lot of shake and bake. A lot of shake and bake out there. They're going to be tailing each other, drafting off each other as well. It's going to be fantastic, especially on the run down to the last two corners off the back straight away.
Shake and bake. My favorite movie, Ricky Bobby, The Ballad of Talladega Nights. I could watch that movie for hours and hours and hours. But going back to the race, what we'll see, I think we'll see at least 10. I think we'll see 9+ cautions. I think it will be demanding for the drivers, like we saw at Auto Club Speedway last weekend. And I think we'll see some more newer names in the top 10. From what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, I think it's a great start for NASCAR for the 2022 season, and hopefully tomorrow it's a good race all around for the fans.
And it's pretty ironic we're talking about this subject now, because in NASCAR Cup Series practice, around goes Kyle Busch into the wall. Yeah. So it just shows you how this new next gen car is super challenging for these drivers. We haven't really gone a long stretch yet without a caution yet in this car, because it is so difficult for these drivers to get a handle on it. They're just like literally wrecking loose, and that's exactly what just happened to Kyle Busch at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in NASCAR Cup Series practice. So I definitely think we're going to see a lot of caution flags. Probably, like you said, Adam, maybe 9, 10 cautions, or if it gets even crazier, maybe even more than that. But I definitely think it's going to take a while for these drivers to get a handle on this new next gen car. And everybody was asking, fans and drivers alike, we want cars that can challenge us. We want the car hard to drive. And it looks like everybody's gotten their wish, because even you have NASCAR Cup Series champions like Kyle Busch struggling to hold on.
Amazing, struggling to hold on, get spin. That's going to put them a little bit behind when it comes to the rest of the weekend. So it's going to be really interesting. Las Vegas Motor Speedway, NASCAR, part of a great weekend of racing. And a big hello to one of our people that bought us coffee, Zach. Hello, welcome. You just joined us in time for the part where we want to hear from you and everybody else, because it's time for Pick a Winner.
That's right, Joe. It's time for Pick a Winner, and we have another exciting weekend of motorsports action across the globe. And if you want to participate in Pick a Winner, use the hashtag Pick a Winner on social media, and you can get on our leaderboard. As you can see, Kobe is first, I am second, and Ben Schneider is third, and then 4th through 10th only has one. So this weekend, if you do your cards right, you could sweep the weekend. So with that being said, it's time we start. First up, MotoGP Qatar Grand Prix, and it's ladies first. So Julia, I'll start with you. Who wins the Qatar Grand Prix for MotoGP?
Well, frankly speaking, I am split between two, but in the end, I will say it's gonna be Jorge Martin.
For me, it's hard to say. We have a great Jorge Martini in Qatar, but we have Marc Marquez, and he wants to win his first career this season for be the champion, and I would say Marc Marquez.
I mean, I'm very annoyed considering that Megan got on the board by getting Scott McLaughlin for IndyCar last weekend, and I didn't. So she's been gloating about me all weekend. So I'm going very safe, but still very methodical bets. MotoGP, it'll go the way of Marc Marquez. We've all seen it at Qatar. We all see how he can slipstream off those Ducatis as well in the past. It's going to be Marc Marquez. He might just prove to everyone that he really is back.
I think it's going to be a battle between Martin and Marquez. At the end, I'm going to go with Martin. He's a sophomore. He's got the win already from last year. So I think he could go toe-to-toe with Marc Marquez and pull off a big win for him.
Well, I'm going with Marc Marquez as well, starting P3. And I think this will prove to everyone that even though Fabio Quartararo is the champion, don't count me out to get this championship and put it back to where it truly belongs.
Kobe, you've got to go for Jorge Martin, and it's 3-all.
That's
You've
right.
got to.
I'm sorry, Josh, but I cannot do that. He's back. I'm going with Marc Marquez. Sorry, Josh. I cannot. I have to go with Marquez. He's back 100%.
Oh, cool. All right. And
I'll take the checkers.
yes, Josh. Yes, Josh. And now we go down under in Australia, and for race 2 of the Repco Supercars Championship from Sydney Motorsport Park. And I'll start with you, Joe. Who wins race 2 in Australia?
I think I'm going to start a trend, so I'm sort of glad you picked me first. I'm going with Shane Van Gisbergen. I think he's going to be really hard to beat.
I'm going with Shane Van Gisbergen just because of race 1. This is a guy who can sweep weekends. This is a guy that we know is very, very, very fast. Add in rain as well, unstoppable.
All right, I'm with my colleagues. SVG sweeps the weekend, and at SVG sweeps the weekend at Sydney Motorsports Park. Kobe, you gonna make it unanimous?
He's going to be this year's Kyle Larson here at GRIDnet, so I'm going with Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm probably going to pick him to win almost every single race this season just to give our viewers a heads up.
All right, Kobe, you're gonna be like Joe last year, who picked Kyle Larson to win every NASCAR race. Okay, I can see where this is going. And then we come back here to the United States, and we go to Sin City in Las Vegas for the NASCAR Cup Series has their 3rd race of the season. So, Josh, I'll start with you. Who takes the checkered flag at Las Vegas Motor Speedway?
Well, first of all, this is a on-air live apology to Kyle Busch. I picked you last weekend, and you had 7 cautions to your name and just had a rotten bit of luck. I was going to pick you again to give you a boost, but Kobe's just told me you've had a flat tire. I'm sorry. I will not do the commentator's curse. I'm going with Brad Keselowski as well, a driver who's crashed in both of the previous 2 races. His luck's got to end at some point as well and finally start going to get to the front with his new team. He's been so competitive at the front nearly all throughout Daytona and Fontana. Caused that crash as well. Come on, just get a win. Get a win.
Well, I'm going to go with a driver that won here last year. With that said, I know Kobe and I know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's Zach's pick right there.
There we go.
For the win.
Here we go
And it
again.
might start the trend.
Well,
He didn't even say it. Sorry, Adam. He didn't even say it. We all knew. He didn't have to say it. He didn't say it.
welcome, Julia and Jessica. You'll learn about who Joe picks in NASCAR for pick a winner. If he continues this trend this year. So, Welcome. With that being said, Josh, you gave him the commentator's curse last weekend. I'm not a commentator. I'm going with the hometown boy, Kyle Busch. Even though he crashed in practice, he gets a win in his hometown, in the first win of Toyota in 2022.
If he wins now, he's going to blame me for the rest of time.
Welcome, Jessica and Julia. Yeah, you'll have fun with us for Pick a Winner all season long. Won't we, guys? Won't we, guys?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it looks like Kyle Busch may be going to a backup car. Still waiting to get official word from Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm not going to be going with the Toyota driver. I'm going to go with the driver of the number 22 Pennzoil Ford. That's Joey Logano, and ironic, it's the Pennzoil 400. So all the folks at Pennzoil will be really happy to see that number 22 in victory lane.
How much are they paying you?
Very creative pick. I know I went with a safe pick, but at the end, we encourage all our viewers, share who you think is going to win. And especially if you got somebody that you think is not Kyle Larson, Shane Van Gisbergen, share on the comments. We'd love to see that. And of course, we encourage all our viewers, subscribe to our Patreon. Keep us on the air all year long. Calling the show, Mark and Robin, been doing this for quite some time. And we appreciate everything they've done. Of course, buy me a coffee. Zach, who we saw in the chat room. Amber, who bought Adam a coffee a couple of weeks ago. Encourage everyone, go down there. It's one time, and you can make it out the coffee request to a particular person from our on-air team. So be sure to invest in the Grid Network all year long. We're expanding. We want to be at the track for all the races, and hopefully 2023 you can see really big things from us. And public.com. Invest in the stock market. You get $5 in free stocks when you use the referral code GRIDnet. There's also the option of crypto, which we know is a big topic lately, especially in motorsports. And follow us on social media. Every week on TikTok, we post up our pick winner, so you can comment who wins. We even once in a while do a bonus question like we had. If Jack Villeneuve won the Daytona 500, you picked him, you would have gotten 4 bonus points. And visit our website, gridranking.com. Of course, the first Sunday of April, the Grid Ranking will be here. So that'll do for today's show.
A tweet from Jim Utter, who's at the track. Kyle Busch is going to a backup car, so he will start from the rear of the field. So cross your fingers for me.
It's going to be Kyle Larson.
Joe.
Just hiding. Let me know when it's safe to come out.
We thank everyone for watching today. For Julia.
Welcome, Julia and Jessica. You'll have fun with Pick a Winner all season long.
And with that said, we want to thank Julia, Jessica. We're excited to have you both on the program, and they'll be here all year long, especially for MotoGP. Joshua, of course, linked to his channel for the watch along, and then Adam and Kobe, they're going to be on Grid tonight, Wednesday. I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.